Welcome to Boss Gals Talking Tea, where we empower professional women to reach new heights of success, where we foster a supportive environment that aids in unlocking endless possibilities for professional and leadership development. I am your host, Yolanda Thorne. And listen, I've got to give a shout out to my partner, Casey, the people's publicist, who is in the background producing the show. Okay, y'all. So I am so excited, as I say for every podcast.
As you should.
No, for real. I am so excited about our guest today. Listen, these are two people who I admire tremendously. And they are the perfect people to talk about our topic today, which is influence, weapon, or leadership tool. Let me tell y'all, it's going to be a good one. So, first, my sister, Erika Duncan, has joined us today, and Johnathan Hill, brother, friend, mentor, sponsor, all of the names, coach, like all the names, right? Has joined us. But I'm going to give you, Erika, first an opportunity to just introduce yourself, and then we'll go right to you, Johnathan.
Thank you, Yolanda. It's so good to be here, and thank you for inviting me. Erika Duncan, homegrown Charlottean, mother of two, been in corporate America for 27 years, and looking forward to this conversation with folks I also call friends, not just colleagues.
All right, Johnathan.
I love it. I am just happy to be here with my sisters. I'm not gonna lie, right? Look, you said that we can keep it honest and keep it real, and that's exactly what I'm gonna try to keep it for you, Yolanda. But Johnathan Hill, corporate professional as well, been in financial services almost 30 years, which is crazy to even say. But executive there as well. Love my data, love my technology. That is what I do in the day. But I also have side businesses as well. A lot of people that have both the 9 to 5 and 5 to 9, and I'm definitely one of them. I have a sneaker company called Commonwealth Customs that I have with a couple of partners where we customize sneakers. We are able to put any business logo on your sneaker so that you can have a creative way to be able to communicate and convey what you're doing, whenever it is that your business happens to be. We put QR codes on. That's one that you see on the screen, the Wellwithal brand that has a brand new energy drink that came out. And so their sneakers now match their energy drink design as well. So thank you for having me. Looking forward to the convo.
And if y'all didn't notice, which you should have, this is the first time that we have a boss guy, right?
No pressure.
On the podcast. It won't be the last, and it won't be Johnathan's last. Excited about that. So we're gonna go ahead and just start jumping in, right? So when you hear the word influence, like what does it mean to you for this one?
For sure. When I hear influence, I think about someone who has the ability to pull, to attract folks to follow them, or to, have folks gain not sponsorship, but integrationship, basically saying, you may not have the authority over me, but what you do influences me so that I want to follow you. And then we all align and we have the same common goals to reach it. So when I think of influence, I think about that. Motherhood is influencing, right? You have to influence the kids do certain things, but then it's not just corporate America. But top of the head, that's what it means to me, being able to attract others to align with you, whether you have the power, authority or not, to help them reach to help all reach the same goal. And usually it's the goal that you have others to align towards you, with you.
And Johnathan, what comes to mind when you think of the word influence?
Yes. Not a far deviation from where Erika, my sister, was at, with the influence word. And I know we've got a lot of other topics, right, to get into, but I think for me, influence directly ties back, to integrity, ties back to your intention, right? Because you can influence in lots of different ways. And I know we're going to get to a lot of these great questions. But that's what I think about, right? your ability to be able to change someone's mind or align with them on a particular direction, regardless of what your station is, right? But there's a particular goal, and you're trying to align on that. That's really for me when I think about influence at its root.
All right. So do you all believe, like, with that definition, like, do you believe that, like, influence is earned, or, I mean, and can it be something like, if, with Boss Gals, right? So we're going to be talking about career things, but we're going to talk about, look from a personal perspective as well. But do you think it could be demonstrated early in someone's career?
I do, Yolanda. I know, to me, when I thought about this question, the biggest thing about influence for me and what I've seen in my career is trust. You may have influence because who you are, but who you are won't keep you there with influence. Is can that body, can that group follow you and trust you? That's why I believe you can get it early in your career. Later, when you think about how it happens later, you've demonstrated your execution, your acumen. So when someone's, when someone that's an expert and they've had the years behind them to become that expert, proven expert, remember, you still gotta perform. Then you also can garner influence. But I do believe you can get it early, and that's, to me, for me, and what I've seen in my career and who I followed and those that have jumped on board with me over the years, is trust. Can your people trust you?
I had the exact same keyword, trust, the exact same one. But I think, it's downplayed and overshadowed a lot. And then we don't talk, whether you're talking about corporate, whether you're talking about entrepreneurship, if you're talking about just being around the way with your family or your friends, right? Trust to me, is the cornerstone of the actual influence. Because I'm gonna tell you what, you could talk to me all day till you blue in the face trying to influence me. If I've got no trust or respect from where you come from, or you've shown me whatever the case is, and for me that comes from my hoop days, right? You get on the court actually playing pickup basketball. Yeah, you look good over there back. You look good shooting over there on the court where there's no defender, right? You trying to influence me that I need to pick you up on my team. But it's not until you can prove to me that we've shown and that we've built trust over small little layers that actually display, to Erika's point, and demonstrate, oh, I can trust you. So I think it's built in from a very early age. And I was actually listening to a podcast. There's a gentleman by the name of Stephen Bartlett, huge following on YouTube, basically setting the stage for Boss Gals Tea, which will be there soon. And he's got a podcast called The Diary of a CEO. He was interviewing Brene Brown, who is a consummate professional in many subjects. And she was talking about how you build trust. And she was actually asking her very young daughter, right? How do you build trust? And she gave this marble example, right? She was like, you take this jar, and she was asking her daughter, like, who do you trust in your school? And the daughter said, well, I trust, right? Let's say Madeline or Samantha, or, whatever the name is. And she said, well, why do you trust it? Well, because when I was sick, they called and checked on me. And she was like, okay, so I picked up a marble and put it inside the jar. Okay, got it. When I was struggling in a particular subject, they called and checked, or they came to my aid to be able to help me on my subject. Okay, gotcha. Put another little marble in the jar. And to me, that's just an example of how when we're young, we have the discernment to figure out who can I trust and who will be able to influence me if we come to the table and we don't agree, right? It's built up on that context of trust. And I just thought that was a wonderful example, whether you're talking about, again, in corporate, and to your point, you're new in your role, but you've already demonstrated or already mentioned or already shown up, and you gain that influence very early. And we see some folks skyrocket in their career, or from an entrepreneurship, right? You hire somebody on, and they knock it out the park. All of a sudden, oh, we riding together, right? I'm on a mission. I'm on a journey. I'm trying to get somewhere in my entrepreneur journey. So I think it definitely can come in early.
Yeah, and let me ask this, because and this, this is not one of my prepared questions, but but as you were talking about that, I was just thinking about reputation, right? Right. And do you think, let's say, for instance, you didn't necessarily know me personally yet, right? But you've been kind of hearing about me, right? And talk about your name being in rooms, right, where you're not there. And because you've heard so many positive things about me, do you think that I could have some influence? Like if you and I had a conversation and I started talking about, I don't know, ABC, XYZ person. But because I have built such a reputation, even though you didn't know me personally before that time, does that impact
I love
the
that.
influence I might have?
To your point, someone else was putting the marbles in the drawer already for you, right? I hadn't even met you yet, but absolutely, that reputation, right, precedes you before you came in the room, but before we were introduced, already has some influence. I absolutely agree, Erika. I know you probably got something on that one.
Especially because with influence, another piece of influence is key and critical, and I've learned it through some great leaders that I look up to: relationships. So, Yolanda, to your point, whoever said that, if you have a relationship and trust, that goes back to that word trust.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
anything
right.
you say, you're going to at least say, okay, there's some credibility because that's Yolanda, and I know her, and I know what she's made of, and which where she comes from. So yeah, I really believe that folks I had another dear friend that says, sometimes, sis, I want you to pray for people to go before you and speak on your behalf, because sometimes you can say things yourself and it won't resonate, or you can try to, me, but let someone else with influence speak on you. All heads to be like this for whatever decisions on the table for you
I'm
in the
pretty
room.
sure I know who that person is. I love that.
Look, and let me ask you all who are tuned in this question. What's harder for you, influencing peers or influencing leaders? Right. I'm gonna just drop that. Right. I want you to right.
Question.
What's harder for you, influencing peers? And you all listen, Erika and Johnathan, I've asked them, I want them to put in chat, but you can answer that question too. What do you think is harder?
I think leaders, Johnathan. What about you?
I do think leaders, but I think that comes from a learned experience, right? Because when you first come into something fresh, you're trying to figure out how to influence everybody. My peers, my leaders, 2 up, 2 down, right? Wherever it is that you're going, right? You see how I'm from Virginia, and I will put 2 up, 2 down in any type of scenario.
What? Tell us about that too. And I have heard 2 up, 2 down a gazillion times. It has something to do with Virginia, something or the other, right?
Virginia, 2 up, 2 down. So
learned something tonight.
I'm sorry, it's gonna come out. I'm a 757er. I'm not Charlotte grown. However, Charlotte has been great to me. But I think again, wherever it is that you happen to come in, I do think that influencing leaders. When you say leader, someone who is maybe in a different position or a different station than you, and so you have these other barriers, access, right? To your point, credibility. What has my reputation already been for that particular person? If in fact I'm just meeting them in a room for the first time, now I got to get over my own imposter syndrome. I got to get over my own thing. When you say peer, a lot of the times a lot of that stuff, right, goes out the window. Like, oh, we've earned already to be on the same level. You are my peer. Now there's less that I have to get over. But in fact, there could be some stuff still there.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I know sometimes in my career, when I have peers, I think I'm gonna get a yes. And when they start challenging, you're almost like, I thought we were peers. But that means that's when you have to step it up. That's when you
talk about, Willis?
Execution, your history. Do you know how to deliver? So your peers know, and to me, those are true friends or true colleagues that tell you the truth. You don't just get them to say yes because you know each other for so many years. But I do think leaders are the hardest to influence, and not always hard. Don't get me wrong; every single one is not hard. But when you put data on a paper, for an example, or you put facts together, that's when a leader needs to lead by facts. And if you can help them and they can help them trust you. I've had some very easy leaders too that I've influenced that trust me. That word again. I'm gonna say, Johnathan, you say 2 up, 2 down. I'm gonna say trust like 19 times tonight. I just know I am. But once I gain trust with leaders, I usually, I know I have their trust, and I will never, and I don't take it for granted. So I only work harder and do better and make sure what I'm saying is true, so they can follow and feel confident.
So now along that lines, right? So I mean, of course, I knew the answer to the question, right? That is harder to influence leaders than your peers, right? And it was a setup, right? Because you know, we have people in the audience who are at all different levels in their career, right? And so, you know, I want to talk a little bit about, like, you know, what does leading without authority look like, right? Whether, you know, and whether it be in your current role or your past role, what does that look like? What are some strategies? And I think this is the next one. Like, what are some strategies that people can use, right, when they don't have this formal power, or when they're trying to influence this leader that they yet themselves don't have direct influence with?
I can go or you can go, Johnathan. Which one?
No. You know, I'm always going to be ladies first now. Always.
I tell you, I've said this before, and I learned it in training years ago. CALM, CALM, connect, align, lead, and you can make M be motivate, move, or manipulate, whatever. But it's all about connecting first. That's that relationship. What do you have in common? Knowing what motivates that other person. So then you can speak their language. That's where the A comes in for align. Then you align to their wins and successes and needs and desires. Mind you, yours is still there, but that's the ability to be able to talk on both sides of your neck, as we say. And then L, you lead them. So let's say you guys are on different sides of the fence, but now that you know how to align to them, you then lead them to you. And then now you can manage. Again, that M can be manage, move, motivate, manipulate, and that's not always a negative, them to now follow you. I learned that years ago, and when I say it in other platforms, people love it. Yolanda and Johnathan.
Listen, I'm already over here snapping. Like,
so simple.
Is that the new thing? That's the new.
Well, I'm following my. You know, I got college and teenagers. I just try to.
Yes.
I just try to be relevant because I don't know. But absolutely, and it's one I'm not afraid or ashamed to say it's one of my superpowers, Yolanda, because I will nod and I'm really meaning. I want to align. I want to meet your needs, or I want, but I've got to get you where I need to get you. And sometimes, you know, what do they say? It's easier to get bees with honey than it is with vinegar. So the honey is not always sweet and being a yes person. The honey is listening and aligning to their needs, and then getting them to trust you to lead them, and then they move in your direction at the same time. I'll pause there. Johnathan, what do you have on that one?
No, I love that. I'm gonna hit you with another acronym that to me I use often, because I often equate influence. I pull on my sales side, right? Because I have a strong affinity for selling. But the acronym is WIFM, WIF as in Frank, M as in Mary. What's in it for me?
Oh,
right. What's in it for me? You know, and so it completely aligns back to CALM. Number one, when you're trying to influence someone, if you have no idea what makes them tick, what their purpose, what their goals are, then you might as well just be throwing the darts. You have no idea whether you're going to be able to influence them or not. But if I can get in the trenches with you and understand, Erika, Yolanda, what's making you tick? Hey, we got this project. Oh, we're trying to get the business off the ground. We both talking about community impact. Oh, dope. What events did you do? Great. That aligns directly with where I'm at. Then we know exactly how to influence a conversation, right? Then we're going somewhere. We got a roadmap. We got a target, because I know how to embrace calm and I know to whiff them. Exactly what's in it for me or in it for you. And to me, look, I keep going. Let me stop, right? So we can get to the next thing, because I'll just be over here like a preacher.
Look, and I just want y'all to know that Nikita is making sure everybody on IG Live understands what those acronyms are. She's keeping them up to date. She done wrote it out. That's my partner. I love it. Okay. So now, let's go back to some of those strategies, right? Like some practical strategies. We've got kind of the acronyms, right? But some real practical strategies that people can use when they're trying to influence without having the authority. Like, give me some examples of some things that you all have done. I've got an example.
I'm gonna tell you what. One of the things I learned how to do and I talk about the sales, right? Let me just actually paint the picture for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
So Yolanda, I know you know my story well. Erika, I'm not exactly sure if you know this part, right? So I went back to school and started out as an intern. I started in banking when I was 16 years old, then went back to become an intern at 32. 16 years later, was like, I got to figure this out. I'm going back to an intern. And so that's where I re-energized and restarted my career. But in order to do that, I had a 1-year-old, a newborn. We had been married for a long time. I got married when I was very young. So I'm celebrating 21 years this year, this year, excuse me. But we had a family, and I had decided I was going back to school. Like, baby, this ain't it, right? I came here to compete in these skyscrapers in Charlotte from 757 to up, 2 down. To come to Charlotte, and I was going to compete in these skyscrapers, but I couldn't get there because I had no social capital, I had no family, I didn't have any education either, right? And we know that typically to get ahead from a corporate standpoint, or even to showcase yourself from an entrepreneurial standpoint, it's likely the 3 E's, right? Education, experience, and exposure. And I had no education. I had tons of experience, but I had no ability to be able to get in those doors. So I had to go to work a nighttime job while I was going to get the degree and working an internship for Bank of America. While I was working the nighttime job, it was a sales job. And I lost about 30 pounds when I first went to that sales job, sweating how I was going to actually make my family be able to eat on doing sales, selling security systems over the phone at night. And this was back before this was setting up your own security system before that was the thing, and that was in that you see on commercial every other day. So anyway, I digress. I don't have PTSD or anything like that. So the thing that I actually took from that though was I learned how to shut up. When I first came into that role, my interview question was, if you've seen the Wolf of Wall Street was like, they open up with "Sell me this pen." That was my interview at Red Ventures. They were a full-time mean sales company, and that was my interview. Sell me this pen. I was like, it's blue. It writes. It's probably the best pen you ever had. And he was like, now let me show you how it's done. The first thing in influencing me to purchase was he understood what was in it for me. He said, okay, he started learning, okay, do you have children? Do you have kids? Why are you calling in? Why do you need a pen? And then he tailored his sales pitch for that. And I was basically told him I was sitting on the beach in Virginia Beach, and I was with my kids, and they had ice cream melting. I ain't had no time to buy this pen. And he turned it around and showed me exactly how you understand the WIFM, and then you can turn around and set your strategy. And when I got good, I could ask somebody for their credit card and shut up. And after a moment and a pause, they'd be like, okay, here's my card. And that was something that I had to learn. How do I let somebody in? I use that in corporate on a regular basis. I give my piece. I let you digest. And I'm going to shut up. Because you are processing, you might have questions. It might take you a moment to process. You might have processed immediately. Now you're reconciling what I just said versus what your thoughts were before you came in the room versus other facts that maybe you were Googling at the same time that I was telling you the facts that was coming out of my mouth. And so there's a whole process there, and you just got to be quiet. You've let the person in. You've gained them, an opportunity to speak, and to gain endorsement. Let them get the endorsement, right? That's a senior move. That's a senior cheat code.
Yeah, and I want to share a situation. So this was some years ago, and I was the lead. I was a product owner on this project, right? Oh, it was a major, like, multi-year update on a project, and they gave us a crazy deadline, right, for when this thing had to be done. So we are working like crazy hours trying to meet this deadline on this project. And it was just unattainable. It just really was unattainable, right? And so I was trying to figure out, how can I influence the leadership, right, to adopt this kind of new date and the MVP. So MVP is the minimum viable product, right? and convince them that we need to be able to do this in stages. So here's what we can do by this time, and then we can, add on later on. And so I didn't have that direct influence, right? They didn't really want to hear from me in that kind of way. They were just like push, push, push.
Right.
So what I did was I began socializing it before the meeting with other folk, right, who were a part of the project, who had a bit more influence, who were some leaders, right? I started having those conversations with them, and not just talking, right? I had metrics and, I showed the proof of where the team was performing and all that kind of stuff. And so I got their buy-in before we ever even got to the meeting. So that by the time I got to the meeting and I started presenting this, I had 3, 4, 5 people who were like, yes, this is what we need to do, right? So then they added credibility to what I was saying. I already had their support and they were able to influence the change where I wasn't able to directly. So that,
100%.
right, that was I don't know that I had ever done that before that time, but that was a real learning lesson. I knew I had to do something because I was not about to die in these streets over a project, working myself to death.
You hit the nail on the head, Yolanda. I want to piggyback on you and Johnathan's two pieces. One, relationships trump formal authority. So, and the different readings say, often decisions are made outside of formal meetings. The meetings really just happen to get everyone to see everyone saying yes. But what you just did, your power play, that power move you did behind the scenes, that's influence, because you were able to you were pulling from the right stakeholders, chats, coffees, quick combos, those small talk. That's something I had to learn how to do very well. Small talk to build relationships. But then, Johnathan, you said it, being quiet. Silence can signal power. Sometimes when we keep talking, we discredit our influence because we're over talking and we're almost weakening our perceived influence by almost doubting you don't even know you're doing it. And that's something I've worked on. Brevity is key. And if you watch some key leaders that you admire, they don't talk long. They don't talk long at all, but they're very powerful in the words they say when they say it.
Just a little plug. I'm literally reading a book called Smart Brevity right now. Smart Brevity.
Yes.
I'm only in like chapter 2 or something like that, but I've started reading Smart Brevity. Okay, listen, I'm gonna I'm gonna piggyback kind of on where you were going, Erika, with this. So you mentioned like, kind of talking too much, right? Can be almost a credibility killer, right? What are some other like subtle credibility killers that people don't realize they're doing? And then we'll talk about how they can recover from it.
Timing is everything. Your agenda can't always lead if the timing isn't right. Pitching a great idea at the wrong time would never get you anywhere. So read the room, like quarter in and different things that your particular organization, high stress, that's not the time to come forward and pushing your idea. So timing is everything. And then another one that's key, when you don't clearly communicate or don't think influence means you sit out and watch others. One, I think folks don't understand. And servant leadership, I always struggle with it because I think it's an amazing leadership style and skill, but I feel like it's a lost art. If you can get in the trenches with your people and show that nothing's up to beneath you, you will gain allyship overnight. Some of us need to learn. I'm talking about how to get out the way, stop doing everything, right? That's another conversation, how to delegate. But I'm talking about myself right now. But that is a key that, collaborate and empower. So a killer of that is you're doing everything yourself. You're so used to being the boss that you want to do it. And you're killing your credibility because there's only so many hours in a day. So you're not going to get as much as you could get done with others that you empower to do the work with you. So that gets back to that alignment and leading versus being the boss. So I think if you invite others for their input and let them feel the ownership of the outcome. A lot of times it's always I or team, but there's an M and an E, so it's still all about me. And you got to make sure your folks feel like they are at the table and they're winning with you. So I'll pause there. I mean those are killers to me. That wrong time, read the room, hush until later. So I'll pause there.
I'm gonna come back with two real quick. One is, I think you gain this over time, which is the ability to feel comfortable in the words "I don't know."
Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes,
It's
yes.
powerful, right? And you can weave that message into having a sense of imposter syndrome or not being prepared. Like there's a lot of different scenarios that can be woven into. But when you absolutely will lose credibility if instead of articulating, you don't know, but I will get back to you. But now I'm going to pontificate. I got to bring up 40 other examples. I'm trying to go around the bus. Oh, absolutely. People then already stopped listening to you. And guarantee that if it's a leader, again, in a very corporate environment, that might have little bit of time. And now you've leveraged that time to show them that you are not the smartest person in the room, right? As that saying goes, then again, damage the credibility without even knowing it. And you might have had the best intention, right?
Look, and wait a minute. And this is shameless plug time. So you mentioned imposter syndrome. So for those of you who have not seen some of our other episodes, episode 2 of Boss Gals Talking Tea on YouTube is called Imposter Syndrome, the voice in your head. Look at it. It will bless your soul. All right, back to I have to look. I dropped shameless plugs about some of our
Well,
episodes.
what I'm glad is that you finally got that alley oop that I've been trying to give you for a minute. But
Yes.
you got it. You came down with it. Hey, that's cool. That's right. The second one I'll say is, and this was when it took me some time because I felt like I have the best intentions. I'm trying to go somewhere. I've looked at all the risks. My leader is telling me to go direction right. I'm trying to go left, and I can't turn the page. I can't get on board. There's a point at which you do challenge because you're in the seat to own the seat. You better be in that seat coming with every capability that you know that you can have, entrepreneurial or corporate. But at some point, when you are underneath the leader and you are driving in the direction and they say, we going right, you need to turn the page and get on board. If in fact you continue to stall, credibility starts going right down. And with the person who you're trying most likely to become your sponsor and to advocate for you in the rooms that you're not in, as Erika stated. Right? And so that I've seen a lot of people die on the hill in a phone call, not know when to turn the page. And then they could have just went afterwards and had a real conversation with the person and went ahead and got past it, but they didn't. So that not turning the page and being scared to say, oh no, credibility killers. Absolutely.
Another killer too is folks thinking they can talk more than show. Optics matters. Optics matters. What it looks like can almost gain you more influence than what you're really talking about. When you're showing a one pager, as an example, it's one of our favorite things, right, guys? A one pager. If you can make that one pager tell your story and then know how to talk to it with brevity, we talked about that. You will sell that over time. You will sell that way than sitting there thinking you're going to just keep talking and talking and talking. So put the time in is my point. Put the time in. You get into executive presence with that too. Make sure you're credible in how, in your optics, how you look in that moment. So I think sometimes we just making a slide or making a presentation is a lost art. And we think it's not all about that, but it is.
Thank you.
It is. I mean, I can't tell you, thank goodness for all these AI tools now, but that I did not come in corporate America with that skill. Oh my gosh. I thought I could talk or I write the whole paragraph, but brevity, boom, one dot. But then how do you make a chart tell you everything? Especially when you're trying to influence up, meaning up to your leaders. You got to be optics do matter.
And so now let's say we, did one or more of those things, right? Are there ways to recover from that, right? And kind of get your credibility back?
Oh, I feel like there's always room to recover. There's no situation that me feeling the way that I have, that I understand the agency that I have in myself, the influence that I know that I have garnered over time. And just again, like I started the phone call off, right? With to me, influence goes back to your integrity, linked back to your intentions. I know I have positive intentions. So if in fact I feel as though the tone of the call, or the interactions with someone has left a question, oh, I need to circle back. And I need to circle back in a way that is humble, right? In a way that is receptive and a desire to learn, not to reiterate, oh, you just didn't get my point.
Right.
No, you wasn't getting it. No, what I was saying was, so yeah, that's my thoughts. Go ahead, Erika.
Accountability. You know, you've got to have accountability. So if you've done something and you know it didn't go well, own it quickly. I teach that to my children. That's not a corporate thing. That's a character. That's a character thing. Own it quickly. You know, that we have different statements people say about apologizing, right? And in positions and in corporate. I think we've gotten away from just saying, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it that way. Please tell me what I could have done differently to help you understand it better, what have you. But just own it quickly. I believe in picking up the phone, you know, emails and writing books of explanations. You've already you've lost that. Nobody's going to read all that. So really pick up the phone and just say, I messed up. Or what I now understand is. And you'll be surprised. And folks really value that. I mean, if you mess up, you mess up, because we're all human, but fast follow up and fix it. And then learn from it, because you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, come back and apologize. So learn from it, and maybe even do a pulse check before, don't check in all the time, but say, hey, I didn't get it right last time. Let's take can we hit 15 minutes and make sure I'm following, and just those kind of things increase your brand around influence and knowing, and your intentions are understood better as you do this more and more.
And I would say, these nuggets, these are great nuggets.
They are.
Right. What about the people that come into corporate and they feel lost? I don't have a home. I don't have a board of directors. I don't have anybody I can bounce this stuff off. It is incumbent for you to find those people. Like, there are a multitude in most organizations of people that just want to see you win. Find the people, find the community, bounce the ideas off. Hey, you've been in this industry longer than me. Hey, you've been in this team longer than me. Hey, you know this leader better than I do. What were your thoughts? This is how I approach it. Can you just help me? Right. And just being open to that level of understanding, because I'll tell you what, 10 years ago, I'd have been knocking the door down to try to get Erika's advice that way. 10 days ago.
Right. And okay. And so listen, I am partial to the introverts, right? Because I am an introvert.
Yeah, exactly, Yolanda. I am just fine with awkward pauses. I am just fine being in the room by myself. Absolutely. I had to learn and adapt to this personality. No, not me.
I know, and most people don't believe I'm an introvert either, right? Because I can be social, right? I do like people mostly, right?
Caveat.
I do like people mostly. And then because, most of the time I'm in some kind of leadership role, whether it be in a committee or something like that, right? So it forces me to have to be, a little bit more forward. But, for those who are introverts, as Johnathan, you were saying, find a person or find the people. What I found that helped me was joining committees, right? Or joining, special interest groups at your job, or whatever the case may be. For introverts, that, that becomes a more organic way, was a more organic way for me to begin building relationships. I loathe small talk. So like the whole networking thing is always like problematic for me. Like it is so weird. Like if you want to see me like look really weird, get me in an environment with all these people I don't know, and I have to make some small talk, because this gonna last like
6 seconds.
Just about. I'm gonna get like 3 questions, and then I'll be like, okay, so I'm gonna go over here.
And us extroverts, Yolanda, have to hone it in. E is not just for Erika. I'm the biggest extrovert. I love people. They give me energy. It fuels my everything. You all see me. Don't let me at the Founders Hall and see 3 of y'all. I'm just, it just gives me life. I've had to learn to hone that in and be very intentional on my small talks, meaning not just talking, how do I stop and focus on, maybe bring a current event in my mind, then let that lead or whatever. But yeah, I just wanted to jump in and say, us extroverts, it is a blessing and a curse because it is. We look like it's easy to go make friends, but you have to hone that energy in and be very direct and intentional, and don't overshadow an introvert leader who may not want to hear your entire family's weekend, in your hello. So read the room and mirror who you're speaking with. And those are just people skills, Yolanda. I know we're talking about influence here tonight, but everything about influence to me is good old leadership skills, but also good old character. As we were little kids, building character.
And we're gonna pivot. Oh God, I can't, boy, this time is going by so fast. We're gonna pivot a little bit, right? So this episode is called, influence, weapon, or leadership tool. So I do want to talk a little bit about, how first of all, let me ask you, audience, when you think of influence, do you think of it as a tool, or do you think of it as a weapon? Post it in the comments. Do you think of it as a leadership tool or you think of it as a weapon? And so I want to go to kind of, how influence sometimes is used as a weapon, whether we realize it or not, right? So have you ever noticed or have you witnessed influence being used in even subtle ways, right, that harm someone's reputation or opportunities?
I have seen it, yes. And I tell you, we talk about influence, but this goes back to character. When I thought about that question, Yolanda, I was thinking about, you are who you are. We all work on our different weaknesses and things but if you are out here using your positional power, your perceived power, your false power, and you're hurting others, that is a character flaw. That is a human flaw. What I would say, when I have seen it, when someone gets a bigger ego, their influence has been successful. They know they walk in a room and heads turn and people, oh my God, there he or she is. If you turn that and hurt people with that, I've seen it done. You can't go into too many stories and details on that because you don't want to say, but I've seen it done. And this is when others with influence, maybe not as big, can become an ally for that person that it was hurting. And then maybe even coach if they can and help. And that's when that accountability quickly turns around and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Some folks have done it and didn't realize they were doing it. And that is when, again, we have to speak up for others who may not have that voice in the room, may not have that voice. Even if they're in the room, they don't know how to use it yet. So when I see it, it's unfortunate, but in this time and environment and over the years, I find that folks are really leaning in on kindness, integrity. So I know we're not where we want to be, but we're getting there where we know we can't hurt people to get to the top. That culture of care. I say it all the time. That is it's not new, but I think now folks are really saying, wow, we are, I post a lot. I am my sister's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. I mean, we got to take care of one another. So using influence in a negative or harmful way, I'm hoping if that person can't speak up for him or herself, people in the room will help and speak up on their behalf. But I've seen it and it's not pretty.
And I actually I want to share something that's happened years ago. And for the audience, I want you, as I get ready to tell this story, to post yes or no to this question. Have you ever had someone's comment about you, good or bad, change how others treated you? Yes or no? Have you ever had someone's comment about you, good or bad, change how others treat you? Years ago, I was working at a place, not to be named. It's not my current place, so yay for this. It's not my current place. I was at a job where, and y'all know me, like when I do something, I do it right. I'm going to like walk in excellence wherever I am, right? So I was at this job, and there was some women who didn't know me so well, right? I came in and I was just doing my thing. Now, I was, I spoke to people, did all the stuff. But because there was one woman who was intimidated is not the right word. But I can't think of another word right now, but maybe intimidated by who I was, right? And even her job, which she actually had no reason to be like scared about her job, because I didn't want her job. I actually made more money than her. I had no desire to have her role, right? Where I was working, we were changing my title, right, for my job. So because we had to do that, we had to repost the role. So I had to re-interview for my role. This person, because of her insecurities, went and talked to like one of the interviewers, one or more of the interviewers. I can't remember if it was one or more, but at least one, and said some bad things about me. I almost didn't get the job that I created for myself, because of this person's insecurities. And it was just not even the truth. Thank God I had an ally who was also an interviewer and who knew me and knew my work and was able to then speak on my behalf, right, when I wasn't in the room. But it was someone else's influence that really almost harmed me greatly, right? Because of their own stuff. And I'm going to make this comment because when you are somebody who does those kinds of things intentionally, you gotta take a look at yourself and ask, like, why, like what's the motivation. And sometimes it's fear, right? Sometimes it's fear, sometimes it could be jealousy, it could be any number of things, right? You can feel threatened, but take a look at yourself and ask yourself why you're doing that. But Johnathan, I want you to talk about some of those very subtle, real subtle things that people say or do that can influence somebody negatively, where it can be used as a weapon.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. And I love the way that you frame that, right? Because if in fact you find that this is you, right? These are tools to employ that it'll help you be able to navigate a bit differently. But yeah, you're right? I mean, from small offhand comments to microaggressions to gossip, right? It's easy. I mean, it's as simple as you come out of a meeting or off of a phone call and you're like, they didn't know what they were doing, right? Like, and we've all been there, right? We've all been there in some way, shape, or form. But they can shape someone's perspective or shape someone's view. And to your point, your very specific point, prevent them from being able to climb whatever ladder it is that they're intending to get to. I mean, I often, as I continue my ascent in my corporate career, I hear about, that person's career was stifled because of this particular incident occurred, and people didn't forget about it.
Johnathan, I was about to chime in. I even did my little finger.
You did the church finger?
I was just like, and mind you, you're supposed to be fluent, so you're not supposed to be raising your hand. Historical lenses. As leaders, as people in the room around a table talking about other employees, we need to learn to let people recover from something they did 10 years ago and stop speaking on it. Let me tell you something. I saw it done and I almost wanted to hug and kiss that person. And actually, that motivated. Someone had done something a while ago. And it was being brought up again as in a fresh new conversation, being very careful. And someone else in the room said, are we still talking about that? And I could have jumped up and said, and I didn't know all the details, but I'll speak personally. One thing, my brand coming in to my career was, I was very tactical. You know, I'm a math major, I'm a statistician, so numbers and let's go heads down. And I worked hard to overcome that narrative. But it followed me everywhere I went. I would get very upset because, because everyone wants a strategic person. And I was like, there's no way I do what I do and I'm not strategic. How do I, so I've honed that and I earned. But when I tell you historical lens and what we ought to do for the ones coming up behind us, because we are where we are. And I'm not saying we got to help the others come up now. Just help people turn those things that happened years ago around. It's not fair when they've done the work. And I mean, I just did it recently this year. And you do it subtly. You say, hey, I know last time you wrote about X, Y, and Z. Is that still an issue? Get them to say, oh no, that was great. Okay, I don't want to see it again. I mean, it's just we got to do better when people make mistakes and we say everyone gets a second chance or everyone deserves a do-over. Let them have a do-over. But that those historical lenses and ongoing narratives, those are subtle ways that I think folks are damaging other people's opportunities intentionally or unintentionally.
I mean, you got to allow access, right? You got to allow, like, sometimes that person just needs an opportunity to prove themselves. And sometimes we have that ability to give them that role or to give them this task or to be able to showcase themselves in a different way to change that narrative. But I love that. I know we're going to keep going, Yolanda.
Yeah. And how do you balance? Before I ask this question, okay, I need y'all to get pen and paper or get your little note thing on your phone because I'm going to leave you with some reflections at the end. So, and good grief, we're getting coming to a close soon. So make sure you're ready. And Casey, the people's publicist, my co-host with the mostest, top tier, she's gonna flash those questions on the screen when that time comes. Okay, but okay, how do you balance, right? Not using your influence as a weapon versus here's somebody you really can't say good things about. Like somebody comes and literally asks you, right, about this person who is currently, not 10 years ago, currently not somebody who you can speak real positively about. Like, how do you balance that?
Well, I equate a lot to basketball, right? I equate a lot to sports. And so I'll use this analogy. It is challenging at times when your say could influence the win or loss of a particular team. So let's say, for example, there's a position open on the team. Someone comes to you and says, I'm thinking about putting X person in that role. They can't shoot, they can't dribble, they can't rebound. Like they shouldn't be there. Right? But you got to figure out, okay, at that point, right, am I playing the role of making sure that we have the continuity and the fidelity of this particular team? And it's my role to make sure that we get the right person there. And I need to provide another alternative recommendation. Or is my job to actually put this person in a role probably both, that's going to be beneficial for them. I consistently, for me, my practice is I'm finding what are your positive attributes and let's let you shine and set you up for success, 100%. Right? In that alignment for that role, placing you into a role in which you have no business, not prepared, no endorsement, no stakeholdership, no experience to really excel or succeed. I am setting you up for failure, and that potentially can blow back on me, right? It doesn't help anybody at all. So for me, it is very much so being in tune that I lead with intention. What is it that you have done? Where have you excelled and succeeded? Can you tell your story and help me understand where you succeeded? I think this role or this particular environment would be better for you. That's where you're going to lead. That's where you're going to succeed. Erika, I know you got some specific examples.
Yep. And then Nikita Marsh with Coached by Detail Therapy says lead with their positives because everybody has one. You said this, Johnathan.
That's
it. And then share their opportunities for growth.
Absolutely.
I was going to say the sandwich method. Lead with positive, let that meat in the middle really tell the truth, because also if you sit there and shine and make everybody sound wonderful, it's also you lose credibility. Therefore, right. You lose your ability to influence because you sat there and blew smoke when there was some challenges that needed to be called to the table. And then end with positive. And ending with positive may say, hey, but maybe we get our and I'll speak on me. I love giving examples outside of corporate America because I think it can be real. Because like you said, your audience, Yolanda, is not just corporate. Grad school. I struggled that first semester at Michigan. Oh my God. I mean, you would have thought, where did she come from? But thank goodness somebody said, okay, yeah, we don't want it. We're not going to. Well, I said, I'm not leaving until y'all kick me out. So we got to figure out what happened. I just didn't get done when I got here. A tutor. And I never will forget. Sometimes people just need a little bit more mentorship, a little bit more guidance. Let folks fail forward, and failing forward needs some influence, folks with influence around them to say, give them one more chance. Okay. And then I'm going to help them. So my point about my grad school experience, I needed a tutor. And let me tell you, after that, it was no looking back. But thank goodness someone saw a reason to say, to end with a positive. But what if we get her a tutor? And then after that, it was, here I am, go Wolverine, go blue. But we just got to make sure we give the positive in the beginning, give that truth and meat constructively, end on the positive, but also end with the ability to say, but maybe think what will help them. See how you can help.
Right.
Tutor, mentor, sponsor, volunteering, whatever they need to do to pull themselves to really go towards the direction you need them to be, to close the gaps to their skill set.
Yep. Now I want you to think about this question because we're getting ready to wrap. I want to give the reflection question, but be thinking about this while I give the wrap-up question. So, if you could teach every new employee one lesson about influence, what will it be? So hold it.
Yeah.
So, audience, I hope you have your pen and paper or your phone and your little note app ready. So here's what I want you, when you leave this podcast, to think about for yourself. The first question, I've got 3 questions. How am I using my influence today? Am I using it to open doors? Am I using it to build trust? Am I using it to elevate others? Or am I, unintentionally using it to control narratives or gatekeep or diminish someone else? How am I using my influence today? Second question, what story are my words telling about myself, right, and others? The way I talk about my colleagues, the way I talk about my leaders, my team, or even the way I talk about myself, right? Plant seeds. So if those seeds grew into a reputation, would I be proud of the garden?
Go ahead.
What story are my words telling about myself and others? And then the last question is, what would I change? And you said this, Johnathan, what would I change if I became more intentional with my influence? If you were deliberate, every conversation, every meeting, every interaction about using influence as a tool for good, how would your team, your career, or your relationships shift? What would I change if I became more intentional? So now we're going to get ready to close with the question I asked you. And then, Johnathan, you're going to shout out your business one more time before we shoot it, before we close, because we want people to see those fly sneakers that they can get made. So if you had one, if you could teach every new employee one lesson about influence, what would it be?
Erika.
Drive for results. Because I drive for results, and you would gain relationships because folks will come to you because of those results. And then you also build the acumen and the expertise, so folks will see that you know what you're talking about and can influence moving forward. But drive for results, which brings in relationship, which brings in trust. Go ahead, Johnathan.
I would say influence is not dictatorship. You have to start with learning first, and intentionality around learning and understanding who it is that you're attempting to influence. I had to come up with something different than Erika, because Erika crushed it. But I think servant learner is what I call myself, not just a servant leader. I am a servant.
I like that.
Leader.
Me too.
That is what I use every single time, because I absolutely will ask the questions to learn, because I feel like that's when I'm most effective.
Awesome.
All right. Now, Johnathan and Casey, the people's publicist, I need you. I need you. First of all, audience, put your hands together for my co-host and producer, Casey, people's publicist. who is the hostess with the mostest that you just don't see on camera right now, but she'll be back soon. But Johnathan, tell us about your custom sneaker business in case there's some folk who want to reach out to you.
No, I love it. I appreciate just that opportunity to talk about it. But look, if you have a business that you would like to get on your sneaker and just stand out in the crowd, maybe you're giving keynote speeches and you want folks to be able to look at the sneakers. Of course, we know that they are much more well endorsed in the corporate arena these days. Or you got a special occasion, your birthday's coming up, you want to celebrate your fraternity or sorority, you want a teammate, or excuse me, a team, NFL professional sports team on the shoe. Whatever the case is, if you can think about it, we can put it on your sneaker and turn your soul into your souls. Thank you.
And though we are far away from Juneteenth, they do Juneteenth sneakers too.
Oh, yes, we do.
That's right. So special occasions, you name it, they do it. So thank you. And as I'm closing, I want to leave audience you with just this little last thought. Your influence is never neutral. It's either building or breaking something. And I want us to choose to build. So thank you again and good night.